Hello, folks. We're back. Hernando with Privado, and we're ready for a session with Nishant and Anurag. They'll introduce themselves. They'll be talking about winning customer trust with a privacy center. They have a great case study for this they'll be sharing. And please do add your questions as we go along on the Q&A tab. You can also say hi in the chat and just tell us how you're feeling. So with that, Nishant, please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Hernando. And thank you all for coming. We will be having a great lively conversation with my friend and former colleague, Anurag Naidu. So, Anurag, tell us about yourself, your career. How did you get into privacy engineering? How you think about it? So, any intro would be helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Firstly, thank you, Nishant, and thank you, Provider, for this opportunity. So I'm Anurag. I'm one of the engineering managers at Uber, leading various privacy engineering functions. As Nishant, you asked, my background was not in privacy before I started Uber. So it's kind of a very new, exciting space for me. I've always believed to try various different things as in my career journey where I've been like a engineer at heart as my education, worked on various different companies on back end, front end, call it full stack, whatever you will, experience different, domains of like a real estate or, restaurant tradings and even like in a big tech companies like Microsoft. And eventually I felt like, it was time for me to explore something new. So, and privacy presented a new challenge. I mean, I know we are, everybody here is immersed in privacy or is thinking about privacy. Back when I saw, in the companies that I worked at, privacy was very nascent, and I still feel that it is very nascent. So it kind of provided a new opportunity for me to kind of a different domain, bring skill sets that you've learned over the course in engineering, and kind of apply that, and also learn, of course, always learn in about the domain. And it has been fantastic so far. And Nishant was kind enough to give me that break at at Uber. So thanks to you for that. I feel like every day we are learning so much, and it's really exciting. Kind of bringing core engineering principles and applying that, and building robust systems that are now performing privacy functions, and bring overall uplifting the core maturity and capability of various companies. So I think that's kind of very exciting.
And I love how you talked about the growth of these tools to make sure that privacy works as a product. It's been a theme all morning. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you think of privacy as a vehicle of trust? We've often talked, Anurag, about how you improve the backend, how you improve the data quality, the controls that apply to the data, how you then make them available to engineers so people don't have to build bespoke privacy solutions on their own, because you can't have 50 different privacy solutions for deletion across the company. And then how do you sort of uplevel that conversation to convince the attorneys and the regulators and the internal audit folks? And then how do you take it forward all the way to something that is customer facing for trust? Can you walk us through the journey, maybe an example or two, or some lessons you learned through the process?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think ba- privacy in general is considered definitely as a more compliance function, and it's at a point in time, sort of you look at it where either company has been unfortunate enough to be slapped with a fine, or some sort of a legal sort of ruling, and they suddenly start paying attention. That's kind of, I've seen, at least in my experience, that's all the ways it has originated or provoked thought in a company. But over the course, what I've learned is, we have to change that narrative a lot to make sure that we are at the front, and not in this more reactive mode. So something that you talked about, Nishant, of course, when something like complying with a GDPR, right, we forgotten ruling, we have to build deletion solutions, and I'm sure every company does. So does our mine, and we if you have a siloed where every team is implementing their own sort of capability of ensuring data is being deleted, then you come up with this fractured model where there could be gaps, and then internal audit or other auditory functions can expose those gaps. So it's imperative that we build a more comprehensive and a central solutions for some of these very compliance heavy capabilities that we need, whether you talk about deletion, or you talk about consents or resource, that help one team to who kind of works with legal, understands the risk of what regulations are out there, and understand the risk of exposure of company and their profile against these laws, to build a mature system and build that expertise of people who are immersed in privacy, whether it's from a legal point of view, from an engineering standpoint, and bring it all together. So building some of these central capabilities has been really rewarding, where you of course reduce any of these risks that might be there, where individual teams implementing their own solution based on their own understanding might have. And as you can expect, right, core different business units and business teams are not proactively or always thinking privacy. It's not top of their minds for them. And for a good reason. I mean, they're in the space, thinking about their product, thinking about, getting more business or wherever their role might be. So having a central team is really critical. And we've built, over the course of many years, such capability that has been central, such as, I'm going to quickly talk about in deletion because that is very close to my heart, where we have built capabilities where we as a central team or a central system handles deletion across the board for the entire company. And it is a ginormous problem because, as you can tell, for somebody as big as size of Uber, there is, there are distributed teams, it's distributed data all over the place. And how does a single team, get a handle on that wide, data and teams that are spread across the globe? And let alone that, now you talk about various different privacy laws across the board, and you have a global team, a global company that operates in various different regions with various nuanced laws. How do you get a handle on that? So I think one of the centerpiece of our capability that we built is that we have a great legal team that puts together a robust after understanding various privacy rulings, a robust system of defining our own data handling and deletion policy. So it makes life a little bit simpler. So I would recommend that if for other companies, whether they are small or big, you start off with defining our own set of policy that have experts looking into various aspects of the law, so that they can include all the nuances in it. That simplifies things, certainly. And then, of course, when you have a single team that is building the core infrastructure capabilities of that helps again, so that there are again not different teams making their own determination of what a policy might be and have their own interpretation of that and then as a central team, what's critical is to speak to the business in terms of what their needs are, because as much as you want for team that is immersed in privacy, you are always thinking about privacy. You think that everyone else is thinking about it and that is top of mind and they will do what you want. That is, of course, not the case. I think a lot of us here have learned that as well and know that. However, it is important to some of the things that we consider as meet the engineering teams where they are, meaning build capabilities and services and tooling that is relevant to them, that brings the simplest or the lowest lift for them to kind of adopt, and is in line with some of the other tooling that they have used in the past, be it around software development or program management. So making it as simple as in the vein of what they're used to gets us a better chance of adoption and subsequently compliance as well. So that's one thing that we've focused a lot, at least in terms of how we built deletion capabilities, and including other sort of capabilities. Now some are not as mature as others, but that's the mindset and the thought process that we take.
I think one thing you said, Anurag, that I want the audience to understand is there's been this perception that privacy is a blocker, because people like us, we tell the company what to do. Somebody's about to ship something amazing, and here comes privacy telling you to do 50 more things at the last minute. But your model, as you're describing it, means you do things for the business so as to protect the business overall, right? The approach is totally different. You will still need to go and often tell teams to do stuff, but at least you are coming in having done some stuff for them already, right? So it's a bit of a shift. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. When you are showing within, so building trust, there are two aspects. We definitely want to move from a compliance perspective to a more trust angle, which is what we've done in a lot of cases. But trust, in my mind, is of course, if we are so customer centric, build the trust of our customers, right? But we also have to build the trust of our stakeholders within the company, because as you mentioned, you either you come in late and of course, privacy as by definition, because of the compliance angle of it, we are seen as somebody who's imposing sort of roadblocks or breaks on other teams to be able to ship fast. So how do we change that narrative? So again, of course, engaging, having programs that proactively engage people as they're coming in, versus when they're settling in or on their way out. So we have programs that kind of have privacy front and center, just like security, just like engineering quality or other aspects of product development. Privacy is a core function of teams and individuals as they join the company. So that's a great way to kind of put it up right in front there. But more importantly, we also engage with teams on a very proactive basis, especially teams that work closely with data, especially teams that are kind of new and upcoming and building new capabilities, like a new business that might be created, who might not be fully aware. So that is kind of that whole shift left angle that we've adopted. And lastly, our capabilities or our again, tools that we build, we make it simplified and really easy lift. So from that perspective, we put the product hat even when we build tools and product for consumption within the org or within the company, so that we are treating just as we treat our end customers or our users on the Uber platform, we treat even our stakeholders and partners and employees in the same way. That has really helped us to kind of understand, do user studies again within Uber to understand what they need, what they're used to, what they are looking for, and understand, help them kind of or help us then create solutions that they can very easily adopt with very, very minimal lift. In fact, some of the central programs that we want to run are as simple as to adopt something like a consent capability or a deletion capability, or the ability to kind of have your data be part of a DSAR sort of extraction. Our goal is to get to 1 or 2 clicks. I mean, it's that is our ambition. Of course, we're not. It's a journey to get there, but that's the mindset that we have. Like, as much as we want to simplify our user experience for our end customers, we want to do the same for teams that work with us, because the gains are tremendous. Like, of course, as a central team or a single team that is taking care of privacy, it's really hard for us to kind of ensure compliance to start with, and the way to do it is to make things very, very simple. So that's kind of our strategy. And of course, the other aspect is how do we gain the trust of our users, because that is utmost. Like, every company, including mine, we work really to kind of up-level the trust of our users. So we then try to think about, okay, now we built the foundation, we built a lot of capabilities that would help, such as ability to do on a deletion if a customer wants that, or the ability to kind of extract their data and showcase them, like what do we have about you, or what have we gathered about you. So we then kind of have taken the approach through our strong partnership with our product partners, our product team, to how do we up-level and make these capabilities, present them to the user. So that was the kind of the point in time where this idea of a privacy center came about. And I know, for various other, tech companies, they were already out with it, but for Uber to be in the mobility space, and of course the tech company, it was a new thing that we just added to that, where just like you have either a identity hub or a security hub or a security center, we have this idea of concept of a privacy hub or privacy center, where anything about a user's information that they might be thinking about, or concerned about, we try to present that and up-level that, so that proactively they are having a place to go to and check out what information have we collected about them, what can they learn about them, and then more importantly, how do they understand what is that, why is that data useful, what is it providing benefits to, so that they have more control, so that they can eventually have more control over what they provide and what they do not want.
Awesome. And I think one thing you've told me before, Anurag, is the fact that when the tool went live, there were 2 benefits. First is the engineering stuff that was built before. The quality got better because people realized that the stuff they do can directly affect the customer. It was this epiphany. And second, the customers are happy to see information rather than having to read through a lot of legalese, right? So it was a way to build trust both ways. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah. I think you touched on a great thing, Nishant, which is that the as an engineering team, it is who is entrenched in privacy and bringing privacy capabilities. Typically, it was all about compliance and how do you fulfill the teams within, which which is great, but it is even more empowering when our engineers or engineering team understand that, hey, what we built actually has a direct impact on our customer. So that was a great revelation, and then something that we really kind of doubled down on. So which means that anything that we build from a compliance point of view, we always try to take and take that and take sort of a different view and figure out, like, how do we present some aspect of it that is exciting or even like very informative for our end customer. So as an example, recently for Uber, like things like how drivers rate their customers was something that created a lot of excitement or buzz. End of the day, it's data that we already have, and were providing, and our the team had built capabilities to provide that data. But it was a new take to present that in a more exciting way that engages the audience and brings our users to understand more about more about their data and what we know about that, and the fact that it drove traffic to our for our privacy center, and subsequently more excitement overall on the platform. That gives a lot of sort of reward and fulfillment to the engineering team or the teams working behind. Similarly, we are also kind of exploring capabilities where more on the eat side of things, like things that you order typically, which is all again your data, like what you typically, what kind of cuisines you go to, what kind of dishes you order, restaurants you kind of typically order from. And now all of that from a compliance angle is, yes, if there is a DSAR request been made, we have to provide. But from a more user centric view, we can make that exciting. Like the core capabilities of extracting that data are already there. But how do we make that more exciting for our customers so that they feel engaged? So now we give them more statistics about, like what are your favorite dishes? Like what do you typically order in different as seasons change? Where do you like to like when you order in a group? What is your party generally try to what do they like? And again, this is again still your personal information. It's still for the individual who's initiating this, but it's an exciting take on your own data that helps you kind of make better decisions and judgment, or have more insights about it. So that's on the the user sort of facing side of, like but how taking so the core capabilities of the platform and making that more relevant for the users, so that while they have a more exciting angle. The other, I think, the more important thing, as mentioned, Nishant, is like how do we increase their trust? So the key sort of thought process that we go with, like if we provide our users more visibility about what we know about them, or the data that we have provided or they have provided to us, the better we are in terms of explaining getting and earning their trust in terms of how that data is beneficial, and whether we need it. Because it's often easy to say that, oh, big tech, you're collecting a lot of data that might not even be relevant or useful for the individual, but it might be beneficial to the company. So by up leveling that, by showcasing, providing more transparency as to what do we collect, why do we collect, how is that, we have this thing called view what powers your experience. So how does the data that we collect power your experience on the platform? That is really crucial for an end customer to see and appreciate, why that data was collected from them, and how is it used for. And of course, taking a step forward, we want to give them more controls to be able to kind of, make decisions about the data that they might have provided. So launching things like, we have a new thing that is rolled out called Privacy Checkup, which proactively helps our users understand what are the things that have a personal element to it. What are some settings and what data that they have shared in the past, or what are some defaults on the platform they would like to visit. So if they want to revise something in terms of their preferences, it is not something that is dug deep that they have to kind of, crawl into, but it is presented more proactively. So those are some of the things that we are trying to kind of, reach back out to our users from a privacy perspective. So to kind of showcase that, not only are we a good custodian of our data and we are doing the right things, but we are, we are not trying to hide things away. So this is up and available for you to make changes and thereby kind of, keeping our overall sort of, uplifting our overall sort of, trust on the platform. And we've seen actually great results on that, to be honest. Like, say ever since we've launched some of these capabilities that were buried and earlier in like, various different silos or settings, we've had tremendous, groundswell of traffic that has come to the privacy center, engaging with various features. And there are teams that we work with actively looking and monitoring, what are the pieces of elements that are engaging to a user, like so that we iterate and build more of those that our users would like to see. So yeah, that's kind of how we
Yeah.
think.
Made me think of something interesting, Anurag. Like, it is one thing to sort of like, especially the Uber story where things were in 2018, 2017, and where things are right now. Did you detect any resistance from within the company to say, okay, are we getting too far ahead of ourselves? Like, once you put something that is out there, whether it's privacy center or privacy checkup, it's out there and you don't exactly know how people are going to react because there is not much out there in terms of precedent. So how did you deal with some of that internal concern that you may have had facing you?
Yeah, great question. I mean, the dialogue between privacy and the rest of business is, always like very interesting one where it's not like, I think we both appreciate, why we both are there, both as in like, as a privacy team and various other, business units that are working towards launching new products and features. But we both appreciate like, what we are there for. And I think to answer your question, like some of the things that we've definitely have had pushbacks when we propose certain sort of, stricter controls or guardrails when features are getting launched. Again, that's also an indicator for us that, as I was saying earlier, that we might have engaged too late. So we constantly try to think about like, how do we engage early, and we have programs within that have like, proactive, like, we call them privacy ambassadors within each business units who are, who understand privacy realm. They of course their own business, and they kind of, are good, like, people who help to kind of, spread the word and spread the awareness and make some of those negotiations that might be happening too late, happen upstream. And that actually helps. So like, I'm sure like what we have seen as like businesses, of course, they want to ship fast, but they, as the company has evolved, as Uber has become mature, they understand the importance of privacy and the risks that arise from it. So it is, it's definitely a lot more a healthier dialogue where, there is a lot of open mindedness in terms of, taking feedback and adjusting things to make things right, right from the get go versus reacting to it. That said, we as in the privacy team, we definitely view ourselves as others have also said, like, we want to enable the business. We don't want to be perceived as somebody who's hindering the business as much as we, we are protecting our users, and which is very, very critical. And from a privacy standpoint, the business does understand that, we are here to help. So from that standpoint, we take a very pragmatic view whenever we talk about, specific issues of whether it's whether it's about like, any settings that might be overly, impeding the business to kind of, find a middle ground. We also, one of the things that we do is like, we try to gather some of the key metrics from a business in terms of, their adoption, their DAOs, or their engagement, or, the final, like, final metrics around the actual monetary sort of value. We keep that in mind in any of the core capabilities that we put. So that we have guardrails in place that can detect if some of the metrics that the business really cares about is going sideways, and it's not something that, it's done at the start and forgotten. So that helps really to earn the trust from a business standpoint, because as much as, the business cares about the aspect that is more material from a monetary value, they also understand the risk. So we come up with a good middle ground. The great thing is, we have strong leadership at the top, right from Dara, who kind of, talks about overall the proud part of the platform and, bringing sort of, things together. So there is acknowledgement across the board in terms of, what the ambitions of a particular feature or product or new business line might be. But there is also acknowledgement of like, what sort of regulatory space that we are entering with that. So having that pragmatic approach, having conversations early, talking about real things that, meet the business and real aspects that are from a privacy angle that are really relevant, having that conversation early and having flexibilities really has helped in terms of our negotiation capability or our ability to kind of, work smoothly and finally kind of, put product out there that is, satisfactory or, exciting for the business, but also privacy.
So, and what has been the reaction within the company? Like, are people more plugged in? It's like, I mean, I remember there were a lot of positive headlines when Privacy Center was released back a couple of years ago. Has that fundamentally changed how people look at the team at all? Because people see a lot of privacy work as being back-end compliance focused, right? That's the perception across the board, not just at one company. So are you seeing people treat you and your team differently because you've delivered something that is customer facing that actually went well?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, great point. Certainly, like, by having a product that is catered directly to the users, engages the overall, business and the product teams in a very different way. So, conversations where we were, not present earlier, where, product was conceptualized, imagined, we have been, like having visibility, putting something out there that is positively influencing privacy, but also positively influencing the business, helps gain the trust of the product leaders. And so that what that means is on the ground, privacy is engaged early in the inception phases, just naturally because of that. And also the other thing I will say is that, because the privacy team has built a product that is more user centric, and kind of, build build designs for it that are friendly to our customers, have a mature mechanism of like, rolling things out in a gradual, in a safe and reliable way, build capabilities that measure, user customer behavior. That has helped, folks within a more compliance heavy, or, we are part of a larger security org, look us differently, which is like, other teams within the more sort of, security space are not so much focusing in some ways, like, not always focusing on a direct user engagement. So some of the capabilities that we've built, or the maturity that we've kind of built because we've directly built for our customers, has helped us build our to kind of, spread that knowledge and spread that word within other like engineering or security orgs, to build their tooling and their capability, keeping, their customer, whoever they might be, front and center, and positively be able to kind of, percolate that and overall help the teams go up or rise up in terms of how mature they want to, how maturely they want to build capabilities. And from of course, building capability that is to our front end customers, up levels us to kind of, larger at a visibility across the globe within Uber. So, presenting these capabilities at all hands or at privacy weeks, that helps to kind of educate the audience within Uber, has definitely changed the narrative in terms of early engagement. And, of course, as we've all talked about, in the privacy domain, how do we want to shift left? These are some of the practical things that we've done that helps us get engaged early and do the right thing for our customers, and therefore reduce the friction, reduce and make that conversations and or that decisions, easier for us when we meet the business at the start.
Awesome. We're almost out of time, Anurag. So one last question is coming from Niloy Gupta. How do you think about measuring success for a user-facing privacy product like the Privacy Center? I mean, it's hard to judge success because the Privacy Center is a combination of several products into one. So I would love to see how, especially there are people in this audience who would love to pitch this as an idea now that they know how well you built it. So how did you measure success?
Yeah. So, I mean, success for us, of course, is like, we closely look at like, are our users engaging with what we built, or is that something going unnoticed? So engagement is a key factor that we look at. The other thing that we also try to measure is, customer sat. So that's more from either through a survey, whether that's inline or, after the fact. We try to measure, how satisfied they feel or aware they feel about their privacy choices and data that they've shared. We also, one of the other success factors that we try to measure is, how is that impacting the data that users are sharing with us? So by that, I mean, does our proactive efforts of, providing more transparency, providing more visibility in terms of what data that we have, is that leading our users to opt out of things that they were previously opted into? That certainly happens, but that is a thing that we closely measure to make sure that they don't feel more concerned about their data than they originally were, because our goal again is to build that trust and showcase that the data that they are providing is empowering their experience and their sort of interaction on the platform and helping them directly have benefits. So as long as we can present that, and that's our goal, and by that the overall satisfaction and awareness is improving. That is something that we closely look at, and of course what the data that they're providing, they're not proactively opting out of. They have, of course, a valid reason to opt out when they know about it. But if it is driving big chunk of groups or users to kind of opt out, then we know that we were either doing something wrong, or we are not providing the same level of transparency that they're looking for, or we are not using their data in the way that they were expecting it to be. So those are some of the metrics that we measure that gives us, helps us keep a pulse on, how it's moving. And of course, using that, build more capabilities, or, that they can see on Privacy Center. So one of the other things that we, as a company that is, was operating in EU, we all have to kind of, face, DSARs when they arise. Now, DSARs are pretty intensive for any sort of company to kind of provide all of that data back to a user. Now, it is intensive from a resource perspective, but it is also in some ways, like, the data is so spread out and structured in a way that might not be most meaningful to the customer when they see it. They might even get more confused when they look at it. So one of the things that we track is, like, how do we make that data more meaningful, summarize it, polish it in a way that is consumable, and how does that then drive our traffic to DSAR? So our goal is to kind of move on towards left, where we proactively provide these data capabilities to our customers through platforms such as Privacy Center, with features like to be able to download your data, to be able to view your data on a web page, for example, that is more that they can easily understand. And how does that relate to the volume of DSARs that we get? Because DSARs are kind of the last resort if a customer doesn't want to really get everything else. But in so far that too much of that data might also be confusing in some ways. So those are some of the things that we keep in mind to kind of ensure that we are on the right track.
And I think the overall message, we're getting down to the end of time here, but I think the audience remembers a few things from Anurag. They should remember one thing, which is when a company is comfortable and confident enough to put a Privacy Center out for the public to look at, it reveals that the company has made enough investments at the back end to feel comfortable about what the status is like. The company has an overall culture that talks about transparency and trust and future, rather than trying to get through one compliance assessment. So when you pitch this idea to your board of directors or to your CEO at your company, this is for the audience at large. Tell them that this is about not just privacy or compliance, it's about overall organizational trust. It's about telling the audience that the world has changed. We have changed. We have nothing to hide. We can go directly to the customer. So it's a question about culture, not just privacy. So privacy is about engineering. It's about innovation. It's about efficiency. It's about all of those things, but it's also about culture. And especially right now, when there is so much frustration about Silicon Valley, this could be a way to sort of improve your company's brand reputation in the public. So, Anurag, I'll let you finish in the last minute or so, and we can take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, you put that beautifully. Like, absolutely. Like, when you approach the board or your executive with this higher value prop of, like, changing the culture, changing the trust aspect, that is that kind of showcases that you are maturing from just the bare minimum that one has to do from a compliance standpoint, because you don't want to get slapped with a fine, of course. Who does? But now you're taking that core capabilities that were built, and now you want to kind of be at the front of it to inform the world, like investing in up leveling the trust will have, huge trickle down effects, which will effectively also keep the regulators and these, fines at bay. So that's the narrative. And I think that's
Thank you, Anurag. Thank you for your friendship, your support, all that you've taught me. And thank you for helping this audience learn of it. Thank you again.